I heard another boy say, "Hey, I found some black paint. Why not paint you blacker?"
I've read some books and things like that, and I know that white-skinned people, they can still be more respected than other skinned people, and it makes me uncomfortable.
After school, some kids from the class, they came up to me and started insulting me, and then they called me a disgusting Chinese person.
Advance Australia Fair. It is literally there in the national anthem. Fair. But is Australia really that equal? The truth is that we have a long and complicated relationship with race on this land, and we are not that great at talking about it.
What does it mean to you to be white?
I don't really know what to say.
A class of students are taking part in a groundbreaking 3-week program.
You are part of an incredible pioneering program as we're going to understand racism.
Overseeing is leading race expert Professor Fiona White.
Intervening at the primary school age is crucial so that we can reduce racial prejudice and prevent it from becoming a problem in adulthood.
A week ago, the class took a test that revealed almost every child holds some kind of racial bias. Now, led by their specially trained teachers, the students are taking part in activities to recognise racism in order to stop it.
We're going to split up into some groups.
A key element, affinity groups.
If you identify culturally with a white culture, you're going to come with me.
Affinity groups allows them to talk about racial issues, and that gives them a degree of confidence. The most important part is then to bring them back together.
What would you like to share with the other affinity group?
There were some parents at the back. When I went past them, I heard them, "Oh, she's not Aboriginal." I was like, what? Why?
They'll come to celebrate their differences and build greater empathy for each other.
Everyone should know a little bit about other people's cultures because I feel like that will make friendships and grow empathy.
And at the end, we'll find out if this bold pilot program can actually put a stop to racism for good.
I wish I had been in a class like this. Thanks so much.
This is the school that tried to end racism. It's week 2 of a 3-week program aimed at reducing racism. Today kicks off with a big question. What do we need to change in order to have a more inclusive society?
Say, "Hey, Mark."
Hello, Mark. Hello.
This exercise is interesting because it shows that the important thing for an inclusive society is that people who do have privilege learn that they might be able to share that privilege with others who don't have them. And that is how exclusion and racism can be reduced.
Welcome. What I've got for you today is a treasure hunt. Inside that maze are 4 treasure boxes. All of you are going to get a chance to go inside that maze to find those treasure boxes. And if you get one, there will be a special prize.
Okay, if you get a chest, does the whole team get that prize?
Nope, it's all yours.
Yay!
Yay.
I'm gonna win.
Who is ready to go inside the maze?
Me!
Your maze adventure starts now.
This way, this way! Out of my way, German! What the hell?
Alan is the first to recover a treasure chest.
Somebody's already got one.
No! Never fail to give up. I'm lost!
Finding a treasure chest comes down to luck.
Ah,
A lucky turn, a lucky move,
I found it!
a lucky break.
I felt really excited because I almost missed it. If I didn't spot it, someone else would have come and taken it.
2 treasure chests have been found.
Move. I need it so badly. Found one.
Hey!
One more left!
There is 1 more treasure chest left.
Run, 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 run! Me this way. Yes!
Hey! Well done. Well done. The last treasure chest has been found. Please come out now.
Wow.
I am Aiden and I am 10, turning 11. I am a fair-skinned Aboriginal. There aren't really many Aboriginals in Australia, so I'm proud to be one of them, and I'm even more proud to be white and a Gadigal Aboriginal person. 3 of my favourite things are my 2 dogs, 1 cat, and a bird. Probably have to say that I'm funny, I'm kind, and I want the world to be a better place with no racism and everyone being nice to each other and everything like that.
How was your maze experience?
Amazing.
Amazing?
It was terrible. Now I have a fear of mazes.
I got lost.
Could I have our treasure hunt winners come join me over here, please?
Exactly in the spot.
I'd like to reveal the special privilege you now get because you found a treasure. This is what it is.
Oh,
What is that? Oh my God.
wow. What the?
That's enough to fit all of us in there, but it's only 4 people.
That is a stretch hammer.
I felt kind of jealous, and I just wanted to get in that thing.
I am very disappointed, and I wanted it so bad. A Hummer is one of my favorite cars.
Do you think you were just lucky, Arisha?
Yes. Because I just went one way and they were like, oh, there's a treasure chest right in front of me.
Okay.
I actually didn't see it until last minute. I actually went past it. Someone else would have gotten it if I hadn't had spotted it.
So suddenly you have this privilege just because
Yeah.
you happen to be at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that all 4 of you were quite lucky.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
When I'm usually not.
Layla, do you feel like they're there just because they're lucky?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Well, because we all did work, but they were just the lucky ones and spotted it before us.
When some people have privilege, it's very difficult to give up. But the important thing for an inclusive society is that people who do have privilege learn that they might be able to share that privilege with others who don't have them.
Given that a big chunk of why you're standing there is luck, would you give up your privilege of riding back in the Hummer with somebody else?
No comment.
No comment. Interesting. Arisha?
Nah.
Why not?
Because I don't want to.
One last time, I'll ask you guys, will any of you give up the privilege of going home in the Hummer to the rest of your class?
This is mine.
This is mine. Okay, head to your ride.
Yay.
And you guys, head back to the bus.
Whoa! Busy. Oh my God. It's sort of like the Australian version of a limo, but better.
I feel like a rock star and I'm living that life.
I felt just joy because I can't wait to tell my mom.
Clearly, once you have privilege, it's pretty hard to give up. But maybe if we could learn to share privilege, we could have a more inclusive society.
It's disappointing to be in the group who have to go home on the bus because we worked just as hard as the people who are going home on the Hummer.
Take one, pass along.
What I really wish was either we all got or we all didn't because we worked as equally as hard. But they were just lucky, really.
In a fair world, I think we all would be able to ride in a Hummer.
Maybe James is onto something. Learning to include everyone equally could be a huge step forward when it comes to reducing racism.
That was amazing, wasn't it?
That was a good one.
Now the teachers want the students to dig a little deeper into this idea.
Hang your bags up, find your seat.
By building empathy and understanding with this afternoon's exercise.
How's everybody feeling?
Good.
Today's exercise is all about empathy, and it's an activity that hopefully is going to bring us closer together and also understand each other as a group. And I'm going to hand over to Miss Prasad.
Today we're going to be separating you into pairs. Some of you will be from our affinity group and the others are going to be from Ms. Campbell's affinity group. The point of today's exercise is that you're going to share a story of a time that you've witnessed or have experienced an act of racism. And then you're going to try and understand how they feel. Then, switch roles.
Let's do it. Let's move some tables.
You can go first.
I've actually never had anybody be racist or seen it.
I think I've witnessed some racism before.
My story is last year. One of my friends, he was apparently being annoying to one of these other kids. And that kid, he started to call him like rude words, like calling him a Chinese freak and like being rude to him. And I told that kid to stop, but then he started calling those names to me.
Your story has two really important elements to it. First of all, it allows someone who's a target of racism to talk about their experience of racism and how it made them feel.
And it really hurt, and I honestly think that he should know better.
The second important thing is that it allows the person who's hearing from the target of racism how that felt, so that they can perspective take and have empathy about the negative emotions.
After school, some people from my class came up to me and she said this to me, your culture is taking over my country and that my culture should become extinct. And then I just really wanted to tell my mom, but I didn't have the guts to say it.
If you can feel the pain and the hurt, then maybe you'll think once or twice before you think in a racist way again.
Okay, guys, good job. I know it's not easy. You do have to be brave when sharing these stories, so I really admire that you put that aside and expressed yourself to your partner.
The students come back together as a group to continue the exercise.
Rebecca, do you want to tell Patrick's story?
Patrick told me that last year he was playing with his friends and one of his friends was apparently being annoying to one of the other kids. That kid started calling his friend mean names like Chinese freak. And then Patrick asked the kid to stop, but instead he started calling Patrick those names. When Patrick told me this story, it upset me a lot because I would have hated to be called names that were disrespectful to my background. I think it would probably have made Patrick feel really upset about where he comes from.
James, would you like to tell us Alan's story?
So, once a person came up to Alan and he said, you have to get out of the school because your culture's taking over. Even though the school invites everyone, people were being racist to him.
How did you feel hearing Alan tell his story?
I felt really bad for him because a lot of people do get bullied for the simple reason that they're a different culture. I find the fact of that very disturbing, and it just makes me feel very angry to hear it.
Alan, do you remember what made you want to talk about it?
A story that's just been inside your heart for for years. It's just really hard to tell. But I've decided to just tell it so I can let go of my grudges and things that keep me back. And then after I told James about my story, I felt better, and then I kind of learned something to just let go of the past and just believe in yourself and in the future. The reason why it's good for me to tell my story is so people can understand how hard a racist person can be.
It's tough seeing them go through things like this, things that they've either heard or experienced or seen. With Alan particularly, because I know that he's experienced it both in and out of school, it is quite upsetting to know that he maybe doesn't know where to turn, who to talk to, how to process the information even. But we can pave the way and we can be there for them when they do decide to open up. I think everyone's got a story. I've got a story, Marc has got a story. It's really important that we listen. But why do you think it's important to share our stories with each other?
It can actually make you, I guess, feel better because that person can understand. They probably have felt or experienced the same way that you have. So it makes you feel a bit calmer to the problem that you experienced.
Thank you so much for sharing your stories today. I know it wasn't easy and you had to be brave. I think it's very important that we share these stories with each other and with other people. It's to get the message out there, and the most important message is empathy. And I can see that you all have it today, so well done. We're going to pop our chairs and our tables back.
Racism does happen to our age, and there is things I can do. If I'm able to listen to their stories to help them get it out, I would be happy to do that.
At home, Alan lives with his brother Dylan, his mum Julie, and his grandparents, who immigrated to Australia in 1978 after the Vietnam War.
Hi, honey. Oh, what's that you're doing?
Doodling.
Hey, did someone talk to you about a racist comments that you came across with at school?
That was this year 6 girl, and she said to me, I am an Australian and this is my land and your culture should become extinct.
Oh, really?
And made me feel sad.
I feel hurt. Back then, because it's very, not many migrants came to Australia, but now we're becoming more a diverse culture. People should be more accepting that everyone looks different. How do you find it's actually helping you to express yourself about racism?
Yeah.
Yeah? I'm not going to say he will never, ever experience racism ever again, but hopefully through this, the program or what he's been through from the school, he's able to stand up at least to say what he needs to say. So I'm just hoping he will be a bit more confident than what I had before.
This is good.
The old saying goes, history is written by the victors, or in Australia's case, mostly by the colonisers. If we are to be more empathetic, then perhaps a good place to start is with the way history has been told.
Hi.
A 2021 review of the school curriculum found that our education system is outdated when it comes to teaching students about the impact of colonisation on First Nations people. But when a proposed new draft came out, some were concerned it had gone too far.
Some critics have pointed to the fact that Invasion Day may well be promoted in schools, hence turning some students into activists. Is that a criticism that you would share?
I don't want students to be turned into activists. I want them to be taught the facts.
Today, our students will come face to face with our colonial past.
Wow, it's Captain Cook.
Their tour guide is historian Anna Clark.
Hi, I'm Dr. Anna Clark. I'm an Associate Professor of History at the University of Technology, Sydney. I think it's really important for students to understand that a lot of the history that we know and that we're taught is often incomplete, and that some of those incomplete stories have been impacted by racism. It's great if the students can think about some of the voices that might be missing from our sense of Australia's past, but also that they might be able to contribute to adding back in those voices that have been forgotten.
Now, you've all got umbrellas. I think the time has come to open them up, because it's going to be one of those days.
We hope that students can take away empathic understanding of a history that they haven't heard about before in a more considered way for the future.
Well, thanks for coming, everybody. It's going to be an interesting excursion here in the rain. Captain Cook is an explorer, and he explored all over the Pacific. What he did was extraordinary, and that's why there's an enormous statue of him right here in Sydney, in Hyde Park. Back of this monument, there's a big plaque that says he discovered this territory in 1770. But the word discovery is not necessarily quite accurate, is it? Because were people already here before?
Yes.
Yes.
And in that landing in Botany Bay, the first thing that happened is that local Dharawal people shouted at Captain Cook and his crew, and they shouted, "Wada wada wai!" And Captain Cook thought that meant, "Go away!" But actually, they were shouting a warning to people that they thought were returning ancestor spirits. So Captain Cook didn't understand what they were saying. And in fact, that level of misunderstanding continued because he shot at one of the Dharawal warriors, Kuman, in that first moment of meeting Aboriginal people. So this landing, this discovery was actually also fraught by violence and mistranslation and miscommunication.
Aidan and Ava both have Indigenous heritage, and today's lesson is deeply personal.
When I heard the word discovered, I felt really annoyed. He didn't discover it. He stumbled across it. It wasn't his, and he just went onto it. It's not his.
So how do we feel about Captain Cook if we know he did amazing things, but also was responsible for taking some of this land from Aboriginal people?
For them, they were just discovering a new place to live, but for the Aboriginal people, they were invading in their personal space and basically stealing their land.
That's right. For the British, this event was a huge success, but they didn't really take into consideration what Aboriginal people wanted. And for the Aboriginal side of the story, this is more a story of pain, perhaps, than pride.
In 2020, the Black Lives Matter protests got the world talking about racism.
The rallies are drawing attention to Aboriginal deaths in custody and are being held in solidarity with American protesters.
At the height of the movement, people turned their attention to historical statues and monuments. Protesters demanded they be torn down, claiming they glorified people who had committed atrocities.
2 women have been charged over the vandalism of the Captain Cook statue in Hyde Park. It comes as security is ramped up around our historic monuments.
So, what should we do with these statues? Should they be pulled down? Or is it better to have more history, not less, so people can learn the whole truth?
Has anyone heard of the name Lachlan Macquarie?
He was the first governor of Australia.
Close. He was our governor of New South Wales. He was governor from 1810 till 1821, and he was responsible for sort of building up what had just been really a convict outpost into a large, bustling colony. I mean, there's a reason why there's a statue of him. It's not just because people liked his name. In 1816, there was a lot of violence between Aboriginal people and farmers and colonists, and he responded by sending
troops out to try and quell that violence. He stated that Aboriginal people are to be made prisoners of war, and I'm quoting here, "In the event of the natives making the smallest show of resistance, the officers have been authorised to fire on them, to compel them to surrender, hanging up on trees the bodies of such natives in order to strike the greater terror into the survivors."
The students aren't the only ones shocked to learn of the massacres that took place under Governor Lachlan Macquarie.
Put a knot in my stomach that, as a teacher, I'm only finding this out now. And it's so important to the story of Aboriginal people and how they feel and what's happened to them as well, and that we just pretend it didn't happen, don't talk about it. It takes time to process.
Does it surprise everybody that, given what we know about Governor Lachlan Macquarie, that the two sides of that character aren't sort of part of the story here?
Yeah. It's a bit like Captain Cook's statue.
Yeah, it's only telling part of the story, isn't it?
Didn't tell us the bad things. Only told us what they thought was good.
Yeah.
Can anybody think of any statues of Aboriginal people in Sydney? No? Well, there's a reason for that, isn't there, Anna?
Yeah, it's because there aren't any publicly commissioned statues of Aboriginal people in the whole of Sydney. So we've just been to the Cook statue, we've been to the Macquarie statue, but we don't have an Aboriginal statue to take you to.
In fact, there's only a handful of publicly commissioned statues of First Nations people across all Australian capital cities.
We should make statues because they did help build Australia, create what Australia is today. But then again, at the same time, we need more Indigenous people statues because there's a lot of Indigenous people who have done good things for Australia, but they're not really remembered. They're like more just forgotten.
I hope the students learn that Australian history is much richer and diverse. I want the students to become critical thinkers and to question their history teachers the same way they might question some of the stories that are told to them about Australian history.
Part of this program requires the students to break into affinity groups based on race. The aim is to provide a space to talk freely about issues in a non-confrontational environment. Today, they'll unpack what they've learned about Australia's colonial history.
So affinity groups is initially about segregating into your cultural in-group. And when they're in this similar same group, there's a degree of comfort and confidence to talk about issues. But then the second phase is to get them back into an integrated larger group to talk about what they spoke about in their smaller groups.
To start off, I'm about to ask you a tricky question. Do you think James Cook did something good for Australia? Does he deserve to have a statue in Hyde Park?
He founded the country, and we wouldn't even be here if he never found Australia.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't really find the country, he kind of just stole it.
What do you mean he stole it?
Firstly, Aboriginals were living here, and then he just took it off them, acting very selfish and being like, this is my country and you have to obey what I say.
He did that because it was a misunderstanding. He didn't understand what they were telling him. That's why he just took over.
If he didn't know what they're saying, that still doesn't give him the rights to shoot them.
If students are taught a fuller picture of Australian history, it would be a valuable step forward in reducing racism.
What did you notice about the statues that we looked at?
I feel like we're not really acknowledging the Aboriginals who were here first and leading the country.
What do you think that means for us as a society if we still haven't put up statues to recognise the first people, the Indigenous people of our land?
That we haven't changed.
Statues provide an inaccurate history of Australia. It's not an accurate portrayal of what happened. We need to think of that and have a better representation of statues so they can trigger a conversation in passers-by.
Do you think you learn enough or much about Aboriginal history at school, or is it from your parents or the TV? What do you think?
I think I've learnt more from my parents than from school, because school doesn't really teach much.
Oh.
It gives you like the basic side, like, you know, Captain Cook did this thing to help colonise Australia. But then there's also the other side.
I thought we were better at it now.
I know, and hearing from the students that things haven't changed much from when you and I were in primary school with regard to Australian history, that's concerning. And it's a really complex discussion, isn't it? We can't deny the fact that for some people, Captain Cook arriving has been a positive thing, but we definitely know for that from an Indigenous Australian perspective, that is not a positive thing.
Let's pop the chairs and tables back.
The affinity groups reunite, where they're encouraged to share their discussions. And both groups seem to agree that we could be doing better when it comes to how the story of Australia is being taught.
As the future of Australia, because you're going to be us one day, you're going to be adults, independent, functioning in society, what could you do to make changes to make us a more multicultural society that is accepting of different religions and cultures and values?
I think it's vitally important that we acknowledge Aboriginal people and Indigenous, because they were, I guess, the rulers of this land many, many years ago. They were here before anybody else. It's really important that we learn about things, otherwise people could maybe even forget about who came first. They would just think about the white colonial history.
How would you lead that change? What would you do?
Some people don't really have control over what their ancestors have done. I guess you can be upset because of what has happened in the past, but like, I really think there's a point where you can't really blame it on like today's generation, because they didn't have control of what happened about 100 years ago, like in the wars and stuff. So if like the British wanted to apologize to the Aboriginals, they could establish something in Australia that like maybe taught Aboriginal language or taught Aboriginal culture.
That is all of the issues that Australia has been sort of like stumbling its way through for 200 years.
And I think the reassuring thing is these are our leaders of the future, and maybe they might be making some of the policy decisions that our current politicians don't have the courage to make.
We're now halfway through the program, and this week the students have worked through representation in the history books. What about our more recent history and the role of popular culture? Have we gotten better at reflecting our multicultural society? Well, in a word, no. A study of Australian screen culture found that people with Anglo-Celtic ancestry made up around 58% of the population. But over 80% of all main characters in Australian dramas and comedies were white. Lack of representation is a subtle cue that forms part of something known as systemic racism. And it's not just limited to TV screens. It's a problem across all media, including beauty magazines. Layla, Reha and Sarah are keen to find out more.
Look at this one. Everybody on this page is white.
My name is Sarah and I am 11 years old. My parents are from India. My mum is from Bangalore and my dad is from Mumbai.
Let it combine.
My favorite things are arts and crafts, cooking and observing what is around us.
I believe that nobody should be judged on what their skin color is. Yay! There are lots of different cultures who come to Australia, and we have to accept what people know and what they believe, even if we don't believe it. Everyone should be accepted. Mainly what people think is beautiful is white people. It's not fair though. It makes me feel a bit upset, I guess, because it's not fair that the white people are getting most of these opportunities, and I really feel like that's a big problem in society.
Lack of representation in the media is a big deal for people of colour. It can lead them questioning their self-worth and their identity due to their invisibility.
I think like 8 people that were like Asian or like black.
I already have one Asian in mind.
I would definitely like to see people like me because it would be really interesting, different perspective, different ideas.
When that notion of what is deemed beautiful is shaped by your ethnicity, it shows how racism can be ingrained in our society.
Hello. Grab a seat.
Today, the students will be joined by Sasha Sarago, a woman who knows all too well the challenges minorities face in the media and the personal toll of systemic racism.
I'm Sasha Kuraba Sarago, and I'm a model, but I'm also the founder and editor of Ascension magazine. Experiencing racism, being a model, has shown me what I needed to do to become a founder of my own business. You know, I was able to provide opportunities for women of colour who didn't have the ability to forge a career in the modelling industry. It was important for me to be a part of this program, hoping that my story would shift the way of thinking for another young person. I really hope that the kids can harness something from it and use it to their advantage.
Class, I'd like you to meet a friend of mine, Sasha, who had a job that I think a lot of people would kind of consider to be a dream job. And I'm going to hand the floor over to her while she tells you a story about what she's done in her life. Okay?
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to come and share my story with you. Today, I'm going to share my experience being a model and also an entrepreneur. Now, from the age of 3 to 9, I lived in the US, but I was born in Geelong, Victoria. My agent was really honest with me. He said, for a black model, they're looking for someone with tiny European features. That didn't include me. Now, some of these comments really affected my mental health. I was very emotional all the time, and it was so hard to try and pick myself up every single time, put on a smile and go and do my job, because I just didn't like how I looked. I did use sunscreen thinking that would help me lighten my skin. And I used to straighten my hair a lot, bleach it. I used to wear coloured contact lenses in my teens to early 20s because I thought the lighter your eye colour, the more beautiful you are.
So you were making changes to yourself to suit an image of what you thought beauty actually was?
Absolutely.
So gang, there is a term for this. It's a big term. It's called systemic racism. What do you think we mean by that?
Hang on. Systemic racism. Isn't it like a system or something? No. It could be privilege, it could be economic, job privilege.
It's when you realise that there is a system around you that is, in effect, racist. In this case, in the modelling industry, there was a system, and the system said, this is what beauty looks like. It looks like small features. It looks like white people in large degree. And you were suddenly realising over a period of years that it was having an effect on you.
Yeah, I think it was the barriers that I faced. I just couldn't move forward. Every time I tried, I have to work 10 times harder. I'd get paid less. So I was thinking, okay, I'm frustrated. I'm always complaining. So I thought to myself, hang on, instead of complaining about this, how about I just create my own magazine? And so we did this for a couple of years until my business became successful. I stand in front of you today as a very proud Wajinbara, Yidinji, Jitterbug, an African-American woman. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But I want everyone to know, even though you might feel invisible, you're never powerless. You always have power.
All right. Class, can you thank Sasha?
Thank you.
All right, grab your bags and head on out.
I think it's really important that we get rid of systemic racism. It just should not exist because it's just too painful for people who can't go through the right rule or standard. I think that is why people do all sorts of things to themselves because they feel a lot of pain, which I think is really upsetting.
Thank you so much for coming. It's been great to hear your story and your perspective.
Thank you so much. You guys are amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I feel like learning about different types of racism is like a good thing because a lot of people might just think that racism is just like bullying or something. They don't like know everything about it. And I still don't think I know everything about it. I feel like there's a lot to it. But I feel like my point of view has like changed on the way that I see myself or identify myself. It's made me see that I am like equal to everyone else.
In the final exercise of the week, the students will be given a special task with the aim of hopefully broadening their understanding of each other's culture.
Welcome.
This exercise encourages perspective taking, empathy, and an understanding of cultural knowledge and exchange.
We have for you the best possible form of homework.
Oh.
I said best possible! These are your cardboard friends for the next 24 hours. Behind here are faces of all of you.
Oh. What?
And overnight, you're going to take one of them home and you need to treat your cardboard friend as though it is your actual friend.
My German Shepherd might not agree.
You need to keep your German Shepherd away from it. When you take your cardboard friend home, everything you do at home you need to do with your cardboard friend. Aaron?
What if I'm going toilet? Do you take...
Would you take your friend into the toilet?
Then don't take your friend into your toilet. We're going to reveal your cardboard friend and we're going to do it in pairs. Are we ready to find out who is your cardboard friend that you're taking home?
Yes!
Miss Campbell, take it away.
Let's go. Okay, our first pairing for our assignment, Rebecca and Sarah.
Come on up.
Yay! Come on up.
So, you get to take home Rebecca and Sarah. Stand over here. Stand over here.
This is weird.
Put your friend in front of me.
At this. I just can't look.
Amar and Aiden. Yay!
The importance of the cross-group friendship and the cultural exchange that may eventuate from these conversations is really important because by exchanging factual cultural knowledge, one doesn't need to rely on stereotypical faulty generalisations anymore because you're equipped now with the real accurate knowledge of that cultural group and friends can provide you with that information.
When your cardboard friend is in your house, it's important that they know what kind of culture they're stepping into, what they should know.
So turn to the person who's taking you home and let them know.
I take off my shoes, then I get into my pajamas.
I normally do prayers after school, 4 times after school.
Wow. We like eating, I guess, sometimes curries. That's like our favorite, I guess. But we like exploring new foods as well. It's really yummy. Yeah. Especially pasta. Who doesn't like pasta? Who doesn't like pasta?
All right, guys, remembering, take care of your cardboard friend. And now, it's time to take him home.
Best friend.
With their cardboard friends in tow, I'll be very fascinated to hear what they learn when school is back in session. Next time, as the program nears the end, the students search for the truth.
We're going to be talking about why the truth matters. First off, what do you think's happening in that picture?
They just framed her.
Learning more about who they are and what they share.
No matter what type of racism you experienced, you're never alone.
We'll see how much they've grown.
We are going to give you the results of the class of how much you have changed over the last 3 weeks.
And if the program is a failure or a success.
Everyone should know a little bit about other people's cultures because I feel like that will make friendships and grow empathy.
I wish I had been in a class like this. Thanks so much.